Hello, everyone. Time for another category. And in this case, we are looking at project management systems in 2026. So let's dive right in.
Growing a business requires a holistic approach that extends beyond sales and marketing. This approach needs alignment among people, processes, and technologies. So if you're a business owner, operations, or finance leader looking to learn growth strategies from your peers and competitors, you're tuned into the right podcast. Welcome to the WBS Podcast, where scalable growth using business systems is our number one priority. Now, here is your host, Sam Gupta.
My name is Sam Gupta. I am principal at Elevate IQ. Elevate IQ is the independent vendor-agnostic technology advisory firm. We help our clients with technology strategy, selection, and change management. On that note, let's go back to today's topic, which is the top project management systems in 2026. When you look at the project management systems, in general, these are best of breed systems. These are not some sort of project module that you are going to find with either CRM systems or ERP systems. The fundamental definition that we have considered to compile this list is that these project management systems must be siloed. If they are not siloed, then they are not considered as part of the list. Now, there might be, in some cases, they might be part of the suite, but for the most part, their data model, the process model must be separable. If they are not separable, then they do not qualify for this particular list. Now, in some cases, the project management may also include the PSE-centric capabilities, and that has a very different scope and focus compared to the other project management systems. The other variable that you need to think about when you look at these systems is whether the project is internal or external. When you have external projects, then in those cases, the perspective is very different. The kind of processes that you are going to need are very different. For the most part, 90% of the project management systems, they are designed for internal project management, especially for the software media-centric organizations. They don't necessarily have processes supported for external project management, where you are going to have a lot more client-centric processes where you have to track the milestones, financials, resources, etc. In those cases, the processes are much deeper. So if you're looking for that, there are different systems that we have on this list. So pay attention to the commentary as I touch on each of those systems, and depending upon what you're looking for, what is your use case, the systems that you might need for your use case could differ. The criteria that we have used to compile this list is product share. Acquisition strategy should be focused on the project management capabilities. If they are acquiring several capabilities as part of that, generally they rank higher on this list. Then you have the product roadmap, community, ecosystem, win rate, technology strategy, as well as investors. So those are some of the other variables. So now let's look at the list. Number 10 on our list is Cantata. And Cantata, when you look at this particular product, they are primarily in the Salesforce ecosystem. So if you are going to have Salesforce as your CRM, then Cantata might make sense. Now, inside Cantata also, they have two completely different products. One has user interface that is slightly similar to the Salesforce user experience. The other one is slightly more agnostic. So depending upon what you care for, do you want Salesforce-centric user experience, or does your project team prefer slightly different user experience just because they may be organized differently compared to your sales and marketing teams? Sales teams are very friendly with Salesforce-centric user experience, but the project management perspective differ. So depending upon your use case, each of those product might make sense. Now, when you look at Cantata, for the most part, they are designed for slightly larger organization. They might have a limit in terms of which organizations they are able to sell this for. So again, if you're looking for PSE-centric capabilities where You need milestones, trackability from the invoicing perspective. But again, this is not the completely connected view from the resource management perspective, the kind of view that you are going to find with ERP like systems. ERP is going to have a lot more cross-functional integration consolidation from the process perspective. PSA decouples that financial view but integrates everything else. When you look at other systems, they are not even going to have that. They are going to have just the operational view, the task focused view of the project management. That is not the complete view. So depending upon what you care for, if you care for that resource management milestone, etc., if you're advanced in your operational maturity, then you would probably need that. But then you will invest a lot more from the configuration perspective. You might have some friction from the adoption perspective because these platforms get a little complex. So if you're looking for easier systems, we have several more. But again, then if you're looking for that reliability with respect to your data as well as planning, then you may need something like Cantata, especially for the client-centric processes, for the PSA-centric processes. So that's number 10. Now, number 9 on our list is Jira. And Jira is probably one of the most popular platform, especially among software developers, because the kind of integrations, the ecosystem that you are going to have, the kind of processes and data model, it is going to be supported with Jira's model. They are very well aligned to software development firms, and some of the agencies, if they might be deeper into software development, they might appreciate Jira as well. But the challenges that you are going to run with Jira is not necessarily designed for that external project management. Jira also has slightly legacy model. It's not going to be as modern, as fluid as something like Airtable, Smartsheet, etc. So if you're looking for slightly more structured project management, but it might not be as deep as PSA, and you might be primarily the software development firm, very focused on software development, then Jira could make sense, and that's number 9. Number 8 on our list is Airtable. And Airtable is a very different product compared to what we have reviewed so far. The intent is very different. For the most part, when you're looking for that ad hoc project management planning, let's say you are looking for a tool at the departmental level, you don't want to organize yourself with other departments, you just don't have, your other departments are not willing to align, or you don't have a central system, and you are looking for a very easy tool that you can use at the departmental level for very small scale project management processes. In those cases, Airtable could make sense. It's not going to have as much learning curve. You might not require as much consulting effort because for the most part, the intent of Airtable is very similar to your something like Trello, which is very task-focused project management tool, but it does have several different perspectives that you can utilize, which is going to be your spreadsheet view, and you are going to have many different boards. But the challenge that you are going to run into is just the integration of all of those boards. For the most part, they are sort of independent. They don't talk as much with each other. So that's where you are looking for very cross-functional processes where everything needs to be aligned with everything else. That's where you are probably going to run into challenges with Airtable. But if you're looking for something very fluid, just to get started, then Airtable might make sense. And that's number 8. Number 7 on our list is Monday.com. And Monday.com is a very popular product as well, just like your Airtable. It's designed for very ad hoc collaboration-centric use cases, especially if you either are going to receive a lot of friction from your project management teams that they are not willing to change their processes. So this can provide that fluidity, ad hocness. But then again, you are going to run into that integration connectedness of the processes. So you might have a lot of challenges from that perspective in getting the data, in having the reliable planning. But if you're looking to start something and you might not be sure about your processes in those use cases, Monday.com might make sense. And that's number 7. Number 6 on our list is Smartsheet. And Smartsheet, Monday.com, and Airtable, they are fairly comparable products. For the most part, Smartsheet is used in the project management community a lot, especially when you are going to have PMO-centric organizations. Now, PMO-centric organizations are going to have their own project management, which might be slightly different than the kind of projects that they might be managing, because the department is sort of project or project. So in those use cases, Smartsheet might make sense. Some of the tools that you might have, they might be designed for more of the operational project management executions. So depending upon the scope of your project, what you are doing with that project, if your project structure is very ad hoc, you are looking for very fluid processes, you are looking for something that can help you get started, teams understand the kind of challenges that they are going to have, and then move on to slightly more structured tool. In those use cases, Smartsheet might make sense. But again, if you're moving from something like the Microsoft Project Management Tool. Microsoft Project Management Tool did have a lot more capabilities overall in assigning different dependencies, formulas, etc. Smartsheet tend to be slightly limited in designing those project plans. So that is one constraint that you are going to run into. But again, Smartsheet could be a great fit for those collaborative use cases, especially when client collaboration communication may be involved. So that's number 6. Number 5 on our list is Rike. Rike is a very different tool compared to your Smartsheet, Monday.com, etc. For the most part, if you're looking for slightly more structured tool, just like your Asana or Jira, then Rike could make sense. Now, Rike is not necessarily aligned just with the software development firms. It is slightly more agnostic in terms of its industry. But again, when you look at the project view, it's very limited to just the operational aspect of the project. It has some resource and financial capabilities, but it's just not as integrated as something like PSA. If you're looking for the real professional services automation platform, which would be PSA, where you are going to require client invoicing milestone, you get very, very, very deep into the financial aspect of the things. Obviously, then the tool is going to be much harder to use, much harder to configure. But if you're looking for simpler tool just for the task management, project management, when you are going to have some of the complex project as well, where you might have project underneath project, in those use cases, just for the operational management of the project, Rike may be a great fit, and that's number 5. Number 4 on our list is Asana. And Asana is, again, very similar to Rike, but Asana does have slightly fluid structure overall, even though it might not be as fluid as something like Smartsheet, Monday.com, etc. So when you have fluid structure, meaning you would require a lot more consulting help to align it with your processes. And if you don't have that technical background to understand the data relationships and how to align the data relationships to your process model, you will require a lot of consulting help. In general, Asana is also designed for the operational aspect of the project management. Its ecosystem is going to be as strong as something like Jira. If you look at Rike, it might not have as a strong ecosystem. So if you're looking for something that is very structured, has very strong ecosystem, aligned to more towards marketing agencies, development firms, even though it's not going to have as strong development ecosystem as Jira, in those use cases, Asana might make sense, and that's number 4. Now, number 3 on our list is Zoho Projects. Now, Zoho Projects is very different compared to many different solutions that we have reviewed. So from Zoho Project perspective, Zoho has a lot of solutions as part of their portfolio, the way they price their product. Sometimes there is synergy in those products as well. If you get everything as part of Zoho One, then you are going to get a lot more as part of the bundle. The way you are going to buy either Microsoft Suite or Google Suite, from the email perspective, Zoho is trying to sell that as well. It's just that they have a lot more tools overall from your work planning perspective. And in this particular case, they have a real project management, which is much deeper overall from the enterprise project management perspective. You can do a lot more sophisticated scenarios, such as your your milestone tracking, etc. But again, their apps are not necessarily as connected unless you are looking at their ERP product, which is very new right now. That is only positioned for India. This particular product, the mainstream product that they have from the Zoho apps perspective, Zoho projects is going to be part of that. So the apps are not necessarily as integrated. The data center integration does not exist among those global workloads as well. So primarily you are going to be concentrated in a specific geography. So it might not be as relevant when you talk about global project deployment. And generally those use cases will be relevant a lot more from the enterprise centric use cases. But if you're looking for a lot more connected centric project management platform, more connected than Asana, Rike, etc. They are very siloed overall in terms of their scope, and looking for something very structured, not as fluid as something like Smartsheet, Monday.com, etc. Then Zoho projects might make sense, and that's number 3. Number 2 on our list is Notion. And Notion is, again, it's sort of the right balance between the fluid as well as very structured tools. So, for example, if you look at some of these structured tools, Zoho projects would be that, Rike would be that, meaning you need to change your processes, you need to align your process and data model to their model. If you don't align that, you might run into customization challenges over engineering challenges. So what Notion does is it provides enough flexibility, but it's not as fluid structure as your Smartsheet, Airtable, etc. Notion does have the collaboration component, which might not be as easy with some of the other tools. For example, if you compare this with Rike or Zoho projects, they might not be as friendly for those collaboration centric use cases. But keep in mind, when you have a simple tool, it's a double-edged sword, because the permission structure that you are going to have, it's not going to be as hierarchical, it's not going to be as structured. So if you don't care for all of that and your goal is to open things up as much as possible, whether you are dealing with internal stakeholders or external stakeholders, in those scenarios, Notion could make sense. But if you're looking for very layered hierarchy, permission set, etc., Notion is not necessarily designed for that. Then you are going to have a lot more complexity with your Zoho projects, right, etc. They are designed for slightly more regulated project management compared to Notion, which is designed for ad hoc, fluid centric project management, very similar to what your Monday.com, etc. would do. But at the same time, you are going to have some structure, so you are not going to invest as much on the consulting front. So that's number 2. Number 1 on our list is ClickUp, and ClickUp has very similar positioning as Notion, and ClickUp is designed for very similar use cases as Notion, where it's not going to have as fluid structure, but it's not going to be as regulated as some of the other components that we have seen. For example, when you compare this with either Zoho projects or Asana, etc. So it's going to be designed for those collaborative centric use cases, but it's not going to be as fluid as likes of Monday.com, Airtable, etc. So if you have those use cases, then ClickUp could be a great fit. And that's number 1. If you enjoyed this video, we are going to link a report in the description, which is going to have much deeper analysis. So you might want to check that. We publish these videos on a weekly basis. So like and subscribe on YouTube. This podcast is also available on major podcasting platforms if you prefer the audio form. Also, if you have not checked our digital transformation report, we publish that on the yearly basis. We are going to link the QR code of that as well. On that note, thank you so much for tuning in. I'll see you in the next video.
Thank you for listening to another episode of the WBS podcast. Be sure to subscribe on your favorite podcasting platform so you never miss an episode. For more information on growth strategies for SMBs using ERP and digital transformation, check out our community at WBS.rocks. We'll see you next time.